everybody. We're live. We did it. Yahoo!
We're live.
Hey. Yeah. Woohoo! Welcome. Nice, Bart. Welcome to Drummers Education Connection.
Hello.
I'm here with two, and the third is coming, of my greatest friends ever, the busiest man in show business. He's held the chair for 20 years in the Sam Morrison Band. He
23.
records 22 years.
23. That's a
23
three.
years. 23 years. That's amazing. He teaches people online at his studio. He does all the artwork for Yelp. He's a blogger. The busiest man in show business from LA-ish, Bart Robley.
Hello.
Woohoo!
Hello. I don't know about the busiest man, but I'm pretty busy.
Busy.
And who else? Who else?
Well, this is a man in Arizona who could cook his own breakfast. He could cook an egg on a rock because it's so hard without messing up any dishes. One of the greatest drummers and people I know in the world, Chip Ritter.
Hello,
everybody.
Chip.
Hi.
Hey, Chip. Jeremy is on his way, so
He is.
Can't wait for the Steamrollers input.
We actually had, like, his wife actually was the one that brought us in today, and she was doing a spreadsheet for something, but she didn't want to come on. And I said, I thought she should have come on and just, like, talk about her spreadsheet for the annual reports. It sounded interesting. I thought we could have talked about that.
It did sound interesting.
It was kind of like talking to Siri, Yeah,
right. Exactly.
Or Alexa.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness. Hey everyone. Well, today's episode is going to be all about parents and how they can support their students with their drum lessons. So,
right.
But first, we've got a little bit of business to do. And we always talk about a good thing that's happening for us. And we also love you for watching us, and we appreciate you so much. And we want to keep this show ad-free. So if you can, please support us on our Patreon page. It's on our website. You can find our website. No problem. It's just look up Drummers Education Connection. And so first off, Chip, tell us your good thing of the day.
Hey guys, my good thing is last week I got to go deep sea fishing with my brother in Pensacola.
Wow. Hey, that's
That
awesome.
was really cool. We didn't really catch much, but we definitely went fishing. So I'm glad to do that, man. I still got the sunburn to show for it.
I think sometimes fishing isn't so much about fishing. It's about hanging out and the time that you spend with your friends and your family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Very cool.
That's about it. How about you, Bart?
Well, I've got a lot of stuff going on. I told the guys before we went on, I'm going to be doing a video tomorrow. I just did a recording session for a client back east, and the tracks came out amazing. Like I'm really excited about it. So I'm going to make a video kind of explaining the track, and it's just going to be drums, and I'm going to put it up so people can hear it. So if they want to hire me to record on their record or their demo or their commercial or whatever, I can do that. So that's been a good thing. And then I went down a road that I never thought I'd go down in my life. I'm gonna pre-reference it with this. I have a new book coming out, and haven't signed the contract on it yet, but looking like might be two publishers picking this up. That's a long story, but looking like it might happen. And because of that, I wrote a couple of children's stories. And I wrote a children's story, and it's two of them. They're up on Amazon Kindle. For Kindle Direct. I will put a link to them in the video below on Facebook. One of them is called Leah and Her Magic Monarch Dennis, and it's a story. It's a children's story about my wife's little adventure with her monarch butterflies. It's really cool. And then I wrote another one being a drummer called Joel and his magic drumsticks, and it's a kid's story about drumming and how rhythm works and how we can work together like we do here on deck. And it's available on Kindle. It's $2.99. You can go there and buy it and share it with the young drummers, young kids in your life. I think you might like that. So that's what I got going on today. $2.99. $2.99.
What was the title of the last book with the magic sticks?
Joel and his magic drumsticks. Here, matter of fact, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to put a link for it right here in the chat. I've got it right here, and I'll put it in the chat. So if anybody wants to grab that, they can. That would be really cool. What about you, Rick? You've got all kinds of cool stuff going on. What do you got going on, man?
It's busy. It's beautiful. I'm getting closer and closer to finishing up volume 4 of the How to Build a Drum Groove series, which is mastering triplet based grooves. And awesome. I am getting some help from a great drummer brother in New Jersey. Shout out to Ron Mordelite in New Jersey. Wow. He's a great guy, amazing teacher. He's got a massive student following. And, I asked him one day, hey, man, I'm looking for triplet bass songs for my books. So, you have a basic shuffle, give me some songs that use that. You have a 12/8 feel, how about that? And Ron, thank you so much. Ron has been loading me up with songs with that I'm trying to fit into the book, and I'm just grateful for all the help. So keep up that awesome work.
Very cool.
That's fantastic. Cool. Way to go, Rick. You're always, I always joke around and call Rick the positive energy hand grenade, but he really is, man. And the thing that's really cool about the deck thing is that we all of us, including Jeremy, are always really busy in this business, in the music business that we love so much. We all have our hands in different things, whether it be with the band or with recording sessions and books and stuff like that. And just the to cross the finish line on a book, writing it, much less getting it published. Oh my God, it's so much work. So my hat's off to you. If I had a hat on right now, Rick, I'd take it off. I would.
Thanks, Bart.
Anyway, so today's episode is about parents supporting their students, right, Rick? This was your idea?
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's hear it.
Well, I want to get your guys' take on it. This is what I love about this show is that when one of us has a need or a thought, we could put it to this big think tank of near 200 years of experience. And so the first thing, so I have a student, he's 13, 14 years old, somewhere in there. And he's not really incredibly motivated to practice, but he's really, really good. And I'm kind of wondering that his dad is pushing him a little bit to do some more practicing. And so I wanted to get your guys' take on that, on how parents can best support. Like, should either one of you answer this? Should a parents be, hey, you need to be practicing? You need to be practicing? Or should they just let it be more organic? So how would you do it?
Well, Chip, do you want to take it or you want me to?
Well, I got a couple ideas. I don't know if I have the answer. This is, every student is different. They all kind of seem to practice on a different level. But I think it's very important that the parents encourage them. I wouldn't say they should be telling them, hey, you need to practice, but helping them set up a time and reminding them that, hey, it's time to practice. I think that would be a good thing, and it would go a long way in their students' path.
Yeah.
I like that, Chip. So it's not, hey, you need to practice. It's like, oh, let's schedule it. Hey, it's 4:00. That's your practice time.
Yeah, it's 4:00. It's time to practice. Let's go hit it.
Yeah. So you're a little push, but not like in their face.
Yeah.
You need to practice, something like that. More like, hey, it's that time. Oh, 4 to 5. That's when we practice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's
like
what
that.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Bart?
I found that waterboarding works.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, come on.
Oh,
That was
oh.
terrible. I shouldn't say that. That was horrible. Yeah, I think that my new book that's coming out, another shameless plug there, has a whole chapter on inspiration versus determination, and how inspiration and determination work together to better one's practice time. Um, so I do think there's a huge amount of self responsibility that a student has to take to practice. Um, but I do think that the parents being involved, like you said, Chip, maybe giving like a little push. Hey, it's 4 o'clock. Let's go practice for a little bit. And then I think they're also, instead of just saying, hey, little Johnny, go in there and practice, would you? I think if you have the parents involved, like sitting and listening, and maybe I don't want to necessarily say being giving them a critique, because a lot of times a parent isn't a drummer, but kind of more or less like being a cheerleader. Hey, look, that groove you're playing actually sounds really good. It's musical. And hey, look, you can play along with this groove from, a Tommy Igoe book, or from Rick's book, or, whatever. You can play along with something. I think that just that emotional support that a parent can provide is a big deal.
Mhm.
Um, as far as practice time, that's a whole nother subject. I'm sure we'll talk about that today. But um, I think that the parents being involved is a really good thing. I mean, I think it's a really good thing. Now,
Oh
Rick,
yeah.
you said that your student, did you use the term that he's rebelling and he doesn't want to practice, or what?
I
How would you put it? Let's hear the story.
well, I would say it's more like the dad is, hey, you should be rehearsing, practicing 5 to 6 days a week.
Hmm.
So I think that might make the student feel like pressure,
Yeah.
and so he's like, I'm not going to do that. Why should I do that? I
Mhm.
think it's a little bit intimidating, and just from my observation over all of these years, it has to kind of come naturally, is
Yeah,
when I've seen the best results, that
I I
the
agree.
parent is actually not so involved, is what I would use as a consideration in motivating your student, because I feel that it's got to be from the student's energy and passion for it that they create, that it really has to be their thing, not their parents' thing, that they
Right.
have to feel cool about doing it. So I
Right.
think that it sort of becomes work when you're told to practice, and
Uh-huh.
and hopefully they're just inspired, and there's a lot of things that I think a parent can do to help with that inspiration without kind of getting in their grill, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and I'm who knows, I'm not a parent, so I know nothing about parenting. So um but I've taught, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids and teens,
Right.
and I've just seen patterns. So I thought this would be a great show for us to talk about what we've experienced, maybe to share with parents, and maybe there's just one or two little tidbits that they can get from it, um,
Well,
and help their
absolutely.
student grow. So,
I'll,
and
I'll,
my feeling is that so much of whether this kid is going to be successful, honestly, is on the parent. They think it's all on the kid, but it's on the parent. So here's my take, or I'm going to just give you this observation,
okay, I want to hear it.
okay? And I want to get your take on this, okay?
Okay.
I find that when a parent sits in the room and the parent said, no, it's cool for me to sit in this room, the kid doesn't really want the parent in the room watching their lesson. If
Yeah,
you were in
I would.
high
Yeah,
school and your
yeah,
parent was looking over your shoulder while they were trying to teach you, you'd be intimidated. And I
yeah,
think almost every kid can't articulate that to their parent. And
yeah.
and so that's my observation. And I'm like, sometimes, well, I always leave it up to them, because I'm not going to say, hey, I got to be a, it's got to be one-on-one me with your kid. I leave it up to the parent. But my observation is that it doesn't work. And then the other thing is, like, you know, the new music that comes out is always inspired from teenagers and people in their early 20s. And there's some consistencies. Daniel Glass, I've learned a lot of this from Daniel Glass, a music historian, that new music has to be their own thing. It
Mm-hmm.
has to be something that they gravitate towards. And it's got to be a little bit of a look to it. Usually there's some kind of dance. And honestly, it's got to be a little bit rebellious.
Oh
Like
yeah,
like
yeah,
waltzes. When waltzes came out, they were that was a rebellious thing. Like, oh my gosh, you know. And so there's always got to be that little edge. So I'm toying with this when I'm playing a song along with my student, and the father or mother say, "Oh man, that's the coolest song in the world." Does that motivate the son or daughter to drum because the parent said
Or
that
work
they
the other
liked
way.
it?
yeah.
Right. It could work one way or the other. So I don't
Right.
know. What do you guys think of that?
I
Your
think,
take?
well, number one, let me say that to any parent out there that's letting their child have drum lessons, kudos to you, because that in
Yeah.
itself is pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Giving them drum lessons is supporting them in a way that not many other people will. So I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing. When it
Yeah.
comes down to parents and children, you know, I used to listen to Motley Crue because my mom hated it. You
Right.
know, and
Right.
there
Yeah.
Right.
was there's an aspect to being independent that children want, you know what I mean, to be independent from their parents. And so I think that would go a long way as far as the lessons go. However, there are some parents that sit in on lessons with me and don't seem to have a problem either way. The child doesn't seem to have a problem responding to the lesson at all. So
Mhm.
I don't know if there's
Yeah.
really a correlation to it. It seems to be that it would be on a case by case basis. You know what I'm saying? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it totally
Yeah.
does. So what that says to me, part of the answer to this is experiment.
Yeah.
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 I have to echo what Chip said, because I think that I mean, as far as like, and what you said too, Rick, like the rebellious aspect of it, you know.
Hmm.
And you said waltzes. Well, fast forward to what got me into music, and got me interested in playing music, and that was Elvis. And so my mom was a huge Elvis fan, and in her day, I remember her talking about how her dad hated Elvis. He just thought he was like the devil, you know. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
music progressively, art progressively, I think, gets more rebellious and pushes the edge more and more and more as time goes on. It just that's life, right?
Yeah.
What was rebellious in the 1950s and what is rebellious today are two different things. Say that with the Beatles. There's Jeremy Steinkohlen, the
Hey,
steamroller. There he is. He made it.
steamroller!
He made it. He
What's up,
made it.
fellas? Sorry about
How are
that.
you, buddy?
The orthodontist appointment from hell for my kid. It took
Oh
an
man.
hour and a half. It's brutal.
Wow, that's
Man.
brutal. Well, I don't know if I feel sorry for you or your kid.
It's all about me. You know,
Exactly.
Ah,
You're paying the bill, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to my thought. I mean, yeah, I think the rebellion definitely is something that needs to be there. And sometimes, because I remember when I came home with Kiss and Ozzy and Led Zeppelin, my mom freaked out, dude. She like, what are you listening to?
yeah.
Especially if
Yeah.
there's blood on the album cover.
Oh, dude, Gene Simmons spitting blood. Oh my God, that was golden. That was just pure. That was perfect. And my mom hated it, so I loved it. And I
Right.
think that's part of growing up.
Yep. Yep.
So nowadays, fast forward, and this band is now older, but some kid wants to listen to Ramstein, and his dad is like, "What is this?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the parent can, I think, squash that. But I also, on the opposite side of that coin, I do agree with you, Rick. I think, and Chip, I think it's got to be on a case by case basis, because if you have a student that does really well with mom and dad sitting in the room, there's no problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. If you have a student, like you said, where mom and dad are looking over the shoulder, it can be, that can be a bit daunting, and the student may not want them there. I've had cases, as I'm sure you all have, especially living down here in the Los Angeles area. I'm Ontario, but it's, the greater Los Angeles area. I have a lot of kids that come to me who are actors, And hey, my daughter, this happened to me where she's going out for a role in a commercial and she has to play drums. So can you teach her a drum beat? Well, her audition's in 2 days. Well, yeah, I can teach her how to fake a drum beat. Let's do that. Well, mom's in the corner of the room going, okay, don't forget to smile. And I'm trying to teach the kid about eighth notes and be able to fake it on camera. And at that point, I will say, you know what? I think it's going to be best if maybe you wait outside, because I'm trying to get you. And granted, I mean, we're chewing off a lot just to get to a gig for faking drums, but mom sitting in the corner of the room saying, smile, is not helping the student learn. But their end result wasn't to become a drummer either. It's the fake becoming a drummer. So that's a whole other story. But that's one of the things I've seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Yeah, one of the problems with having parents in the room is when they interject, or if they start talking to the student, that's not really helpful to the lesson.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I find that all the time, because usually the parents are often not really hip to what's going on in the conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I, there is that fine line, because back to what Chip said a second ago, if you're a parent and your kid wants to play drums and you're supporting that in every way, shape, and form, driving the student to whatever, right? You're supporting it. I get that you want to have some input and that you want to be there for part of the journey. But I also, the way I always kind of put it is, well, you go to a restaurant and you want to order a filet mignon. Are you going to go back in the kitchen and tell the cook how to cook the steak? You can't do that. You have to have a certain amount of trust. And I think when a student's parent, once or twice interjecting something, but if they start like telling the kid how to count, or no, just do this, because they're understanding it and the kid's not, they're stepping on the toes of the teacher. And that's not an ego thing. It's just that they're getting in the way of what you're trying to show them,
Exactly.
I think.
Exactly. Jeremy, do you have a policy about parents sitting in on the lessons? What is it?
I do. I allow, if parents want to, I allow them to sit in for the first lesson and only the first lesson. After that, no parents allowed.
Really?
I have found that kids behave differently when their parents are in the room,
right?
And they're not focused in the same way. And also, you mentioned the word trust there, Bart, about how the parents need to trust, the teacher to do the job the way we know how to do it. But such an important part of building an effective relationship with my students is developing a trust between us, right? And I find that parents or people sitting in on the lesson often get in the way of fostering that trust. A lot of sort of looking back and forth, looking back at mom, looking at me, or mom interjecting, like you guys were talking about, getting in the way. And it's not just that it gets in the way of my communicating things or the student learning. It's like it just gets in the way of their being present, and focused.
Student being present.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They got, and on the one hand, they're there to learn, and that takes a certain amount of humility to sort of put yourself in the beginner's chair, right? And then on the other hand, if their parents are there, they're trying to please their parents, often. And that can manifest in all kinds of ways. And all it does to me is just get in the way of what we're trying to do. So, I let parents know, like, if, I have no problem if you want to sit in on the first lesson, check me out, get my vibe, see how I communicate and how I do things and how I structure the lesson, and how I talk to your kid, and that it's safe more than anything, like this is a safe environment. You can trust me to be responsible, right?
Yes.
In this hour behind this closed door with your kid. And after that, it's just all about trust. And I've never had anybody, I've only ever had one person push back against that. And that's a story to tell, which I can save for later, or I can share now if you like.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Gotta hear it.
I want to hear it.
Yeah, gotta hear it.
Gotta hear this.
So this is a kid who started with me. This is, 15 years ago. He only took lessons for a couple of months, maybe 3 months. And he was a nice kid, earnest, really wanted to learn to play. And dad sat in on the first lesson. That was fine. And then, of course, afterwards had all sorts of things to tell me about, how I should do my job. And I was like, thank you. I appreciate the feedback, and I'll take it from here. And after, I don't know, 6 weeks, he said, oh, my son's, he's not, we had people, company over, and I asked my son to perform, to play, to demonstrate what he had learned, and he wouldn't do it. And dad was really upset about that, as if, his kid should be some kind of performing, circus seal or something. And I said, well, sounds like he wasn't comfortable doing that. Oh yeah, well, I think he needs to do more of this, blah, blah, blah. And then the lessons need to be more focused like this. And I want to sit in on the lessons from here on out. And I said, yeah, and I could tell already that the kid was like under the dad's thumb. It was one of those overpowering, domineering helicopter dads who was,
don't be
and the kid would visibly shrink in the dad's presence, right?
Yeah.
One of those.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen it.
We all
Yeah.
have.
I hate that.
Me too. I mean, you can tell the stuff a mile away. I mean,
Yeah, you can.
right. We see family dynamics a lot. We see how kids are and how they are with their parents. And I told him, no, I said, I'm not comfortable with that, and I said, frankly, I think, it's in your kid's best interest to have his lessons without you there. And I didn't say that in an offensive way, but just in terms of being productive and focused and all that.
Yeah.
And he said, why, I want to sit on the lessons because I want to hear what he's being able to do and how he's working on it. And I said, well, then, I think you need to find a different teacher. And he called me. He said, okay, thanks, and that was that. He left and never came back. And then 3 weeks later, he got an email and they said, oh, we're selling the drums. Do you know anyone who wants to buy them?
Oh man.
But that was one of those scenarios where I can only do what I can do. They got their screwed up family dynamic. I can't get in the way of that. I'm not the therapist, right? I'm just trying to teach the kid drums. And if that's not going to happen in a healthy way, then I'm not down for it.
Right.
Yeah. That's an interesting question. How do you tell a parent not to be a helicopter parent? That's a difficult situation.
Well, you know what? That's why I wanted to do this episode, because every time I have a new student coming in, a younger student, I'm going to share this episode. I'm going to ask them to watch this first.
Mm-hmm. I like that, Rick.
I like that, Rick. If I may interject this, I think that, diplomacy is a big thing. And I think, like Jeremy kind of said, just, okay, you can come and watch the first lesson. I don't have a problem if people want to watch the lesson, if a parent wants to sit in on the lesson. But I will tell them, look, I need you to let me do my job. I don't need you to tell me how to teach. And I've said that to students' parents. I recently had a student's father who came to the lesson. And this kid's he's a real shining light. This little guy, he's always smiling. They have a great family dynamic. There's no I don't see anything where the parent, like you said, Jeremy, where the kid shrinks down in front of his mom or dad. It's kind of almost sometimes a little bit of the opposite, to where I'm telling the kid, okay, your music's right here on the music stand, okay, play bar number 1 for him. And he goes, he's not focused. So and one of the things that we work on in this particular student's lesson is focusing on your time, focus on what you're reading, listen to what you're playing, think about what you're doing, not how you're doing, all these things.
Yes.
And dad started interjecting, hey, make sure you're looking at the music, And I just had to stop. Hey, let me tell him, and actually it started with, before I said that to his father, I said, I came right out and I said, listen, student, listen to me. Don't listen to your dad. I know he's your dad, but listen to what I'm telling you. I'm teaching you. I want you to focus on what I'm telling you. And then dad still didn't get the hint. I didn't abruptly, but I said, hey, let me deal with it. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I just want to interject, as the only one of the 4 of us who is a parent.
Right. Thank you for saying that.
I know what it's like to, take your kid to different programs and lessons and all this kind of thing. And to want so much for your kid to do well, to be well behaved, to be focused, to succeed, right? To have a positive experience with it. And, I think a lot of these parents, unlike the story I told earlier, most parents are really well intentioned,
Right.
They really want in a good way for their kids to do well and succeed and make a good connection with the teacher and everything. But in that, good intention, from that good intention can come things that are not productive and don't contribute towards success. And that's why, I think it's better for in general for parents not to be there. But, I'm happy to have as long a conversation with a parent as they like before the lesson or after the lesson. Right. So, and I think this is a tip for parents who are considering teachers for lessons. You want to vet them as well as you can. Get some references, right? Have a
Yes.
long conversation. Talk to them about their teaching method. Do they use books? Do they use videos? Do they, what's the expectation in terms of practice? What, do they have a method, or are they just kind of, figuring it out as they go? Do they say, oh, I don't know, I'll work whatever the student wants to work on every week, and is it like that, unstructured, or do they have a plan and a method and a curriculum, that they've developed, right? These are important things to know. What kind of teacher is going to work best with my kid? Is my kid one that has no problem focusing, or is my kid, and is really engaged in like asking for what they want to work on, or is my kid somebody who really needs structure,
Yeah, that's important.
and discipline? And different kids are different. We all have a range of students, from the most motivated and self-disciplined to the totally ADHD kids who can't sit still for 2 minutes. Like, so that's important. You got to find the right fit. I'm a huge believer in the fit between teacher and student being important, both for the student and for me. Right.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to work with a kid who's not going to show up and be present and be focused and is committed to the process.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a way that you can, as a parent, I feel like that's your responsibility, is to make sure it's a good fit. Talk to your student after the lesson, talk to the teacher after the lesson, ask them both, how did it go? How did it go for you? Right. Get as much information as you can. Does this feel like a good fit? And then moving forward, then you trust the expert.
There you go.
Yeah, communication is key.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, things can come up down the road. You can have a great relationship with the teacher, and then there was a hard lesson one day. Oh, Johnny came home and he was practically in tears. Oh, what happened? Right. Sure. Talk about that stuff. Well, Bart, you had something?
I do. I kind of want to share a success story that kind of goes along the line with the parent being in the room and what we're all talking about here. I like what you said, because there has been times where a student, they get brought to tears, and I have to, as a teacher, I'm going to interject this. I have to be aware of that, because sometimes, like on me, I'm like, you're almost there. And I'm focused on the music and I'm looking at the student, but all of a sudden I'll get hyper focused, and then the waterworks start and I'm like, oh, I didn't see it coming. So I think it's important to let the parent know that could happen. That could happen, because, hey, look, this is not easy. My success story is this. I only gave him 3 lessons, but I'm friends with the family, and I want to get him here on deck as a host or as a guest. His name's Harley DeWinter. He plays with a band called Breland. They were in Nashville, and 2 weeks ago, he played Madison Square Garden, opening up for Shania Twain. So he's doing great. Yeah, the kid's killing it, man. And oh my God, can he play? The reason I brought him up, I'm not sitting here going like this. He's had a host of drum teachers. He took a few lessons from me. I think 3. And I was just happy to be part of his journey. His father was always in the room. His dad was always there. Him and his dad are like this. I would go as far as to say that his father is probably his business manager, if and I don't know that, but I would guess it. They support him like no other, and he is a complete and total success story. And he's a complete and total success story because his parents supported him. But again, back to that intestinal fortitude that he had to sit there during the lessons and let the waterworks happen. It never happened with me, but I've heard. And to go to the drum lessons, to drive him to Stockton, California, to take lessons with Mike Johnson, to play and take lessons with Greg Bissonette, to really go that extra mile and dig in, but then to do the work. And when his dad was in the room, his dad never once, hey, do this. Hey, listen. Never once. He would sit there and just say nothing, and Harley would do the work.
Yeah.
That's what I considered support, and his dad always drove him to the lessons. He paid for every, I mean, he is such an amazing, amazing guy, both him and his father. And so I think that again, it does come back to the situation, because I think in that situation for me, I can't imagine his dad not being there. You know what I mean? They were such like a team. That's a rare thing, though. I have to say it's a very rare thing, but I think it comes back to the situation a little bit too.
But remember also, like if you've got kids coming to you for lessons, the parents are already committed on some level to offering them extracurricular arts education and supporting their interests, so, and paying and driving, like right there, that's a lot of support going on.
Exactly.
In square one.
Yeah. And as Chip said, kudos to any parent who is supporting
100%
their student. But a lot of times, I think that the parents too are looking for a way to bond with their kids. So they're thinking that if they hang out in the lessons, that maybe they're supporting their kid. And I had a couple ideas of some ways that way you can support without getting in the way and still be connected and let the kid just do their own thing. And one of them is taking them to concerts. That would motivate them more than anything. You could
say it again, Rick. I'm sorry.
Taking your kids to concerts. Get out there and see some live music. And that's an incredible way to make a bond and to motivate your student or motivate your child to drum. The other thing is take them to music stores. Go over to Guitar Center. Take them to a record store if there are any out, and just flip through music. And another thing is to watch some music documentaries together. That could be a real big motivating way of doing it. And then occasionally, I think it's a good idea for us teachers to take videos of the students playing along to songs in the lessons, and share those videos. That's a great thing. Like the parent, like, hey, I saw that video of you drumming along to that Van Halen song. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, and then reward systems. If the student is sticking with it, that's the great thing about acoustic drums. Like, hey, you've been taking lessons for 3 months. Your teacher says you're progressing. Let's go down to the music store and buy you a splash cymbal, or a cowbell, or let's add an electronic drum gadget, or give you new Aquarian heads. No shout out there. So even if they have electronic drums and they're progressing, you could say, hey, well, let's buy a multi-pad or a trigger system, or just get them in. You've been drumming for 3 or 6 months. Get them some bongos, get them some congas, get them some other percussion instruments too. And so it's that support through encouraging.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like that.
So do you guys have any other kind of thoughts along those ideas that might motivate?
I like the motivation thing. I really like what you said when you said the bonding thing, because I think and again, this is coming from a guy that I don't have kids. I'm not a father, but I think the bonding needs to be more than, the lesson is not the bonding place. The fact that you're taking lessons and the parent is supporting them, I don't even think that that's the bonding thing, because, hey, if my kid wanted to play football, you'd have to buy uniforms. I mean, that's not the bonding. The bonding is going to the football game. It's watching the game. It's cheering them on at the game. The bonding is taking them to the concerts and listening to them play and listening to the school concert, and then taking them out for pizza afterwards, or going to the music store and the record store. That's the bonding part, Rick. I think you really hit the nail on the head there. I really do. I really do.
Yeah. The other thing is show up. If they're playing a gig, like a school gig, you got to be there.
Oh,
be
of
there.
course.
Like if
Right.
it's
Yeah.
a school
huge.
performance, you had better be there. But
Yeah.
let's say they're playing with their buddies at a club. Maybe consider not being there.
Well, you asked.
Yeah.
You asked, would you like for me to be there? You know, I'd like to
Yeah.
come if you'd like to have me, but if you're not comfortable with your parent embarrassing you, you know, then that's cool too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Well, you know, yeah, let's keep this in perspective. Like, you know, you're not taking you don't send your kid to drum lessons to bond with them. That's not the point of drum lessons. This is for them. It's not for you,
right.
right? You're just
Yeah.
being a good parent by supporting their interests and their passions. You know, you can bond in other ways that are more important and meaningful. But like Rick said, support. You know, it's all about support. And you know, I think I try to make a habit of reaching out to parents every so often with an update, just how things are going. And I find that as a parent, I love when I get that from their teachers, you know, because you drop them off and you just trust that they're working, and of course you know at home if they're practicing or not. And um, I like to tell parents when students are doing really well, you know, and also when they're struggling with stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, hey, I have kind of a loose policy for myself that if a student comes in and hasn't practiced at all, you know, we talk about it. Okay, you know, hey, life gets busy, no problem. They come in a second week in a row and they haven't practiced. We talk about what's stopping them from practicing. You know, trying to tackle. You know, do you want to be practicing? Okay, if you're not practicing, why not? And you know, how to get there, how to do some life management skills, time management stuff, scheduling, etc. And if they come in 3 weeks in a row without having practiced, then it's time to have a bigger talk and to get the parents involved and say, you know, is this the right timing for you? You know,
Is this what you want to do? Yeah.
do you really want to be here now that you know more like what's involved with this? And you know, like anything, it's going to take some work to get good at it, and that's the process is what you have to enjoy. Um, you know, and some parents and kids really appreciate that check in, like, yeah, you know what,
Yeah.
it's not working for me, or yeah, it is working for me. I've got to redouble my commitment to this, and you know, time to take myself more seriously. And that's the growth process for a lot of kids. You know, it'd be great for us if every student came in disciplined, focused, prepared, had their materials, had practiced, and is like the ideal student. We all have some of them, and those are great.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to work with. But most of them, or I'd say the big middle chunk, you know, they're somewhere in the middle, right? You get the few that are fully committed and disciplined and they're dream students. You get the few at the other end of the spectrum who never come in, they're always unprepared, they're missing their lessons. And then you get the big bulk of the middle ones who are sort of somewhere in the middle where they're practicing, but they could be practicing more, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes our job is to just help them through that and help them get to that place where they're in the groove with it, where they're practicing more, they're seeing the progress, they're enjoying themselves, and they're feeling a sense of self-worth and improvement and progress. And you know, maybe that manifests if they're lucky by getting to play in a band, and that's awesome, or doing a recital or something. And for some people, it's just I just like playing drums and I want to develop. But yeah, that's all I got to say. Rick,
You know, one of the things that I've found successful in getting the students and the parents together on the same page is asking the parents what their favorite songs are and seeing if there's any of those songs that the children might like to play. Sometimes they hit it off and they find some common ground there with the lessons, and that can be a really exciting thing to do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
You know,
That's
mom
pretty
has
I like
a favorite song and then the child starts playing it. That's kind of a cool moment.
Yes. I'd like to address scheduling in this episode with parents
Scheduling.
because this is a big factor that I've noticed.
Scheduling practice.
Scheduling the lessons.
Okay.
I feel that it's very helpful and fair to the student for everybody in the family to keep a shared schedule, because
Mhm.
I've had so many times where the student has a drum lesson and then the parent is some last minute cancel because they forgot that there's some event going on. Oh, we forgot this party that's going on.
Or
And
Right.
soccer
you know,
game.
yeah, I didn't oh, I forgot to look at your little brother's soccer game is Wednesday at 6, so you can't be at your drum lesson. So therefore now I'm left hanging as a teacher and might have to bill them for a no-show.
Yeah.
And so good communication on scheduling between an entire family. What, Jeremy?
I just want to
Yeah.
interject with this one thing that I think is really important for parents to know. If you cancel a lesson, pay the teacher.
Yes.
This is
And I have to go ahead. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
this is for many of us. This is our living,
Mhm.
and it's income that we count on. Everyone has their own cancellation policy. And if you cancel outside the window, you can reschedule or get a credit, and that's all fine. Whatever. But respect the policy. Don't try to work around it. Don't try to
Yeah.
come up with an excuse. And even if your kid's sick the day of, offer to pay for the lesson.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. We're doing this instead of other things, and we're trying to keep a quality professional business
Yes.
going. And by not showing, you're what you're usually doing is you're telling someone else, hey, you can't come in because I reserved your time. So it's a courtesy to the teacher and to other people out there in the world. And so it's very easy to send a payment with Venmo or PayPal or Zelle. And yeah, often they know I have a 2-day, 48-hour policy and they can't make it. And then they say, do I still have to pay? Which is
Yes.
so awkward.
But the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
The answer is always yes. Just,
Yeah.
That's
like
why, and I have to interject this, and this is my policy, and this is how I run my business. I'm not telling anybody else how to do theirs. I do have if you're sick and you're not feeling well and you don't want to be there, and if it's an in-person lesson especially, I don't want to get it. I'll reschedule you if it happens once or twice. If you're a long-term student, no problem. We'll reschedule, but it has to be done within that month. You have to absolutely pay me for all lessons at the beginning of the month, because I won't. And you have to know my cancellation policy. If I had this happen the other day. And this is awkward. I have a student who they don't pay my normal rate. They're paying a lower rate than what my rate is. They've been with me for a long time. I'm friends with the family. They take online lessons. I call him for his lesson. Oh my God, Bart, I forgot to tell you that look, I'm in Yosemite, and they show me this beautiful stuff. Oh, wow, that's great. Awesome. Okay. I'll see you next week. Well, it was awkward because they hadn't paid for the lessons yet. It was the first lesson of the month. Wires got crossed. When he paid me for the lessons, when his father paid me for the lesson, he didn't pay me for that lesson. And I had to have that conversation with him. And I don't like that, so I definitely pay for the lessons up front. Not a lesson by lesson thing. And if you're going to cancel, I cancel within 24 hours. I don't have 48 hours, Rick. I have 24 hours. That's for me. And yeah, if you're canceling because you're going to go to a soccer game, well, you probably knew that soccer game was there 3 days ago or 4 days ago. Let me know. Not only can I reschedule you at that point, but that hour or that half hour that you're not there, I can put another student in there,
Mm-hmm.
So that's just me on my soapbox. So,
yep.
But
I
what
like
about
your
you?
soapbox.
You like that?
It's a good soapbox. And in this world of people not communicating so well, and people thinking that this is a social thing. It's like, no, we are businesses. We have rents. We pay taxes.
Well,
We're
that's right.
doing this professionally. We have medical. We have to pay for our own medical. And we have to weigh the difference. Do I want to be playing in bands? Do I want to be doing studio work? Or do I want to be available to teach? So you're supporting your teacher which is supporting your student by understanding all of this and having some courtesy about our
That's right.
schedules.
And most of
Correct.
this stuff can be avoided or be not an issue if you're clear with the communication up front. So if you go to find a teacher and it sounds all good and everything, well, ask the questions. If they don't offer that, if they don't tell you what their cancellation policy is or scheduling policy, ask. So you have it in an email, you have it in writing. So then when things happen in the future, you know exactly how to handle it. And there's no miscommunication or there's no resentment, anything like that.
Yes.
Clear communication, just like when we were talking about, the student and the parent communicating where they're at and how the lessons are going and what they expect out of it and what the practice schedule is going to be. All of this comes down to clear communication as well.
Yes.
Correct.
When a student first starts with me, every student, every age, every experience, I send them a text that has my 2-day, 24-hour policy written there, and it's very, very clear. It says they're 100% responsible for cancellations, and that they're responsible for their own hearing protection as well. And,
I like that. That's a good.
And that I have no liability if they have a ringing in their ears, and I tell everybody to wear plugs in the lessons. And some don't, and that's on them. So all I
That's
require
a great idea.
is that they hit accept, and somehow they always forget. Many people forget this, and that they already hit accept, and a lot of them are like, well, I wasn't feeling well. Well, if I have a window of time in the next couple days or so, I'm okay with bringing them in and like, oh, okay, I understand you're not feeling well. But what I also tell people is really don't schedule tentative lessons with me.
Yes.
This is not a loose thing.
Yeah, you're committing to the time. You're setting aside a time for the student that you want that same level of commitment from them.
Exactly.
And if they can't make it, they got to pay for it because they've committed to the time, and then something came up. Fine. If it's within the window, then you got to pay.
That's it. And not feeling well. One nice thing that we do have now is online lessons. I really encourage people, all students, with their teacher, to try to set up an online lesson so you know the system. Because if you have sniffles, man, I've had many people who, I work with a lot of adults, like, I'm not feeling well. They're not feeling well because of a hangover from the night before. It's like,
that's a good way not to support your kids' lessons.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? We've had shows about not drinking. You know how many gigs I've played hungover? I don't want to hear about you. and I'm not. I ain't bragging. Okay, those days are long behind me.
Yeah.
But look, online lessons. Look, you can see me from here. You can see me from face on. Now, here's the fun. You're going to see my bare feet. I call this the barefoot cam. Okay, you can see the bare feet. There, barefoot Bart. You can see the barefoot cam. Look, this is lessons under a microscope, and you're not going to catch a cold, and you're not going to give me your cold. And even if you're feeling poorly, we can sit there and and work on paradiddles. Do whatever we got to do to get through the lesson. You've paid for it. I'm here. I was here on time. I would like the same amount of respect. And it's a hard enough business to run. And when people treat it as, oh, well, that little fun thing that you're doing over there, playing the drums in that room, that's cute. Can't make it today. That's insulting. It really is.
Take the lesson seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, exactly. I have a big question for all three of you guys.
Okay, quick. We're just about out of time, and I hate to do this, but I do have a scheduled thing I got to get to. So we're close to the end, and I'm sorry, Rick. I don't mean to, but go ahead. Let's hear it.
We'll go real quick with it.
Okay.
What if the student wants to go pro and is totally irresponsible and not really that good? How do you support that as a parent? Or is that a whole episode?
That's a whole episode.
What does going pro even mean?
Yeah.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
Well, not go to college and work at McDonald's because I'm going to be a drummer.
Oh yeah, boy, we could talk about that for a while.
Maybe that's a future episode.
Yeah, that's too.
I got three. I'll interject 3 words that'll help. Okay. You ready? Practice, practice, and practice,
There you
and
go.
and get used to hearing the words no. And
Yeah.
when you can, you have no clue what you're embarking on. You have no clue. You have no idea what you're embarking on. So
I had a mom come to me once and say, "My kid's going to college. He wants to study drumming, jazz drumming. Do you think he has it? What it takes to succeed?" And I said, if he's got the dream, just because where he's at now is no necessary indication of where he's going to end up.
That's right.
So it's really just about how committed he is to the process, and if it's his passion, he loves to do it, then that's what he's got to do. But
Yes.
if you don't have that drive and that passion and that commitment, and you really know this is what I want to do, get a real job and do this on the side for fun.
There you
Yeah.
go.
yeah.
There you go.
Because you're not going to get rich at it, most likely.
And Rick, I apologize. I didn't mean to stomp on the idea. I've just we're talking about scheduling here, and I got a schedule and a little bit of a late start.
I opened a can of worms with that one.
That's
so.
okay, man. That's
a good
okay.
question. That
is a good question.
Speaking of scheduling, I just want to apologize for being late today. I took my kid to an unscheduled last-minute orthodontist appointment this morning and thought it'd be over in 25 minutes, which it usually is. And today, for some reason, it was an hour and 10, so couldn't make it. But glad that I got here for the second half, and you guys are awesome as always. And thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next week.
We appreciate all of you. We hope we weren't too preachy today. We hope that these are some ideas that will benefit you and your children, and we're here at your service. We're grateful for your watching.
Thank you
and
very much.
I think it wasn't too preachy. I agree with everything everybody's saying. I think that it comes back to maybe the parents just need to know that this is something that, I mean, it's obvious this is what we do, but respect it, please.
There you go.
Respect us as much as we respect what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
Take us out, Bart. Let's hear a groove, brother.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let me take
it.
I got a pad on the snare drum. My studio ring fell off. Here we go. I'll play the same one that we started with.
All right, let's